Hey team, welcome back to Spec. I've got the XR8 back at the track to test the Shockworks, Coilovers and the Brembos, but I didn't just stop there. I threw in a few extra additions before we got her here. Come on, let's get into it. Before I could do anything new, I had to set the ride height. The funny thing was, I knew this corner was low, but I got too excited and wanted to bed the brakes in, so I took it for a drive. And when I went to put it back on the hoist, it got stuck trying to go up the ramps. So it would have been much easier if I'd fixed the height before I'd taken it for a burn. It's surprising how good this height works. I had driven it around a bit, over train tracks and undulating ground, and it doesn't scrape on anything. Especially impressive since that is a 265 wide tyre in there. So if it wasn't for going onto the hoist, I could almost run it this low. The other side isn't anywhere near as low, and having a look at some of the pictures of the shocks before they went in, I can tell which one went in the other side, because they were drastically different. It's a bit lucky that I didn't notice before putting them in. If I had, I probably would have set this one to the low height too. But with this side being close to where it needs to be, I took some measurements of this side to start off with, and there was only a little bit of adjustment needed on this side. After taking some measurements of how much height needed to be added, I could simply wind out the shock. Then I could put it back on the ground and check the height. And look at that, it fits on the hoist again. Now I could set up some new brake ducts. The idea was to go through where the fog light is located. My first crack at ducts on the under tray dragged on the ground under braking and got all torn up. Oh, and look at this. Someone hard parked this bumper into something before I got it. I've never seen a bumper squished up this good. To get the fog lights out, I removed the under tray. Then I could unplug and unbolt the fog lights from underneath and remove them. I put double-sided tape to the mounting surface of some air ducts that I had lying around. After pre-fitting the duct hose, I inserted the air duct and pushed it into place. The vent coming inside the bumper worked out pretty good. I was originally planning to run the brake ducts through the guard liner, but having a harder look, I decided it would be better to come through this direction. The advantage of having it come through here is that the brake duct hose is completely clear of the wheel rotation. It just takes a longer path getting there. And guess what fits there? The under tray. I'd already drilled some holes in it previously, time to drill some more. After deciding where the hose needed to come through, I drilled a pilot hole, and then one big enough for the hose to go through. And it worked out pretty good. The brake duct hose came nicely through the under tray. There's plenty of clearance from the wheel, then I just needed to tie the hoses up pointing towards the brake disc. The factory leather seats don't offer much in terms of bolstering. Even though last time I was at the track I couldn't fully push due to the brake fade, I was sliding around on the seat all over the place. So I decided to get myself a Sparco fixed back race seat, along with a matching Sparco seat mount, and to hold me in place a Sparco 6-point harness. To get the factory seat out I had to remove the seat base trims, unplug the connections for the seat controls, airbag and belt buckle, and then remove the bolts. And lift the seat out. And like always, whenever you go under interior trims, I found some money floating around on the floor. After a bit of a cleanup, I could place in the new seat base. Then offer up the seat. And have a quick test fit. A few adjustments later, I was happy with the spot and I could hard bolt it down. And finished it off with the 6-point harness. I still stuffed the spot though. The shoes I was wearing had thicker soles than the one I wear at the track. You could still use a bit of adjustment. Finally, I removed the weather shields and sent the car out for a wheel alignment. The adjusters allowed for 3.5 degrees in the front. Now it's time to hit the track. The day started on the Clubman track. I've had 3 cars out on this configuration before. I was keen to see where the XR8 would line up on my virtual power wall. After I cleared some traffic, she instantly went quicker than Robin. Snuck up on the GS, and then went quicker than it. The only problem I started having was the car was hitting the limiter in 4th on the approach to turn 1. It was too close to the corner to make an extra gear change, so my speed was limited to 186 km an hour. The GS would get 204 at the same spot. It has the same gearbox and diff ratios. Only difference is the Supercharged Miami has a higher rev limit, so it could go that fly faster. For the second session, I started with traffic again, but I had an eventful couple of laps. After overtaking the BRZ on the back straight, they had a massive moment out of turn 6. On the next lap, catching the Sleeker coming out of turn 4, it had a massive moment too. But the next lap was good. .102.97. On the last lap, I got an overtemp warning on the dash. The temperature gauge was in the perfectly normal operating range. I'm guessing it was an oil temp warning. It didn't last very long. Not long after I lifted off, it cleared itself. It must have only just got up to the warning level. The last session was compromised. I spent 3 laps following an RX-8 around the track. This thing blows the best flames. Not once, not twice, but I counted 10. Don't put that anywhere near dry grass. I finally got through, and on the last lap I was 4/10 up, in line to lower my time even further. But I made a mistake and threw it away. So for now, the XR8 will have to settle for second on the club sprint board. Next up was another chance to have a go at the sprint circuit. This was the only configuration the XR8 saw last time before melting the brakes. I found myself a good spot on the track, and straight away the first lap it was better, jumping up to 3rd on my list. And even though I was catching the Mustang, it gave me a Watt 4 on the straight, showing me the legs of a Gen 4 Coyote. More power. I did close up again, and they had a bit of a boggle in the corner, but I could see a little mini chomping at my bumper, so I let them through instead. Thankfully, the Mustang let me go on the front straight, and the lap was good, again for a low 60-second, but not quicker than my first lap. For the second session, I found an even better spot by myself, and could throw down 2 good laps in succession. .100.1. Oh, so close. A second quicker than last time we were here. On the 3rd lap, I was 2/10 up, but approached a gaggle of cars trying to figure out where they wanted to be on the track, so I didn't go any quicker. The option lap shows that if I'd put all the sectors together, a 59.8 was possible, so the XR8 could be second on both configurations. The time was there, it was there to be had, but the weather didn't want to have any of it. Before I could get out on track for the 3rd session, the skies had opened. I definitely was not going any quicker today. Time to pack up and think about what could have been. Then additionally, I took the car to Morgan Park to see how it'd stack up against the Mach 1 and the Dark Horse. Unfortunately, this is as close as it got to pulling laps. I had a failure on the way that I couldn't fix at the track. We'll have to find that out another day. I'll be back soon having another crack at both QR and Morgan Park. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see how she goes. And until next time, remember, there's more to going fast than going fast. Catch you later.